Introducing your favorite channel on YouTube, Spider Red. I'm sorry, I've always wanted to come in with a wrestling intro. I'll have to get better at that. I grew up in the 80s. I used to love wrestling and how they brought in all of the individual wrestlers or the teams. But anyway, let's get to football. Last weekend, the wildcard games were just horrible. They were pretty bad. We only had one really good game. It was a nail biter. The brand new Lions beat the LA Rams. That was a really good game. But for the most part, like Browns, Texans, Miami Dolphins, and Kansas City Chiefs, the Buccaneers and the Eagles, and the Green Bay Packers and the Cowboys, the games were not that good. So let's hope that these division games are going to be better, even though two of them have some high lines on them. I mean, two big dogs coming in to two of the first games there against the number one seeds. You always have to look forward to having some good football, and I'm going to go through this in sequence of how the games are being played this weekend, and that's how we're going to start with the Texans and Ravens. Tomorrow, Saturday at 4:30, Houston Texans going against the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm going to go ahead and do kind of what I did last week. I'm going to go over each team, and then at the end, I'll give my prediction. So we all know they're the 4 seed. They had that big win against the Browns last weekend, 45-14. I mean, if you looked at my predictions last week, I did not think that this was going to happen at all. Stroud came out. This rookie he's so good. Everybody knows I'm a Georgia fan. The game last year with Ohio State and Georgia, this kid was lighting it up. And everybody could see that he had talent. I was kind of thinking that he might get drafted over Bryce Young because Bryce Young is so small. That stupid, and yes, I'm going to call it stupid, Wonderlic test kind of had everybody turning on Stroud like, oh, this kid is dumb. No, he's not dumb. His football IQ is very high, and that's what you got to look at. Does he have to go on Jeopardy and win 40 straight games or something? No, he doesn't. He's a football player, and the kid is still smart. He doesn't have to take some of these high IQ tests to be able to play football at a high level. Well, he's already showing it. So I'm jealous. I mean, the Falcons don't have a quarterback. This kid's lighting it up. DeMeco Ryans is doing incredibly well. I mean, how can you not root for this team? They're an underdog that is easily to root for. We'll look at the stats real quick that I put on the page here. It's Stroud threw for 374 yards, those 3 TDs, those 2 pick sixes. And if you hadn't seen that clip with DeMeco Ryans showing Stephen Harris how to watch Flacco's eyes and step in front and get an interception, it's pretty impressive. I mean, he is going to get so much faith from that team showing them how to play. So we'll go over their key injuries real quick. We know Tank Dell and Noah Brown is out. That has not hurt them. Jerry Hughes is definitely out now, which is not... I mean, he didn't play too many games this season. Fant was still showing that he was questionable tonight, but it looks like his illness, so maybe he'll be ready to go. And then Blake Cashman, that's the big one. He had a lot of tackles last week. On PFF, he was actually listed questionable. ESPN didn't have that. But either way. So if we look at their team stats, their offense, they hadn't been running the ball a lot, but Singletary has been putting in the yards, vital yards, I should say, important yards to get, towards the first down, or when they do a draw, he's been getting 10, 12 yards. But that defense, Baltimore loves to run the ball, and they're 6th against rushing. And DeMeco Ryans is showing how much input he's putting on this defense. So this game might be a little closer than most think. And I still can't believe they're 9.5 dogs to the Ravens. We know the Ravens were having a great year, but man, the Texans have been playing so good recently. So my keys to victory, I'll just kind of go over this. I think they need to run the ball a little more to take a little bit of pressure off of Stroud, especially those two linebackers with Queen and Roquan. They're such a good core there. Also, like everyone, and you're going to hear this a lot during my talking today, but man, you got to limit those turnovers. That's an absolute must. Now, Stroud made some deep throws last week, and I think that's going to be very important. I think they're going to have to try to go over the top. Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame has been playing extremely well in the secondary. Their secondary is good, but Stroud's going to have to find a way to still maybe get one of those home runs to either win the game or at least stay in it. Moving over to the Ravens, we all know they're the 1 seed. They had the bye last week. Last year, they lost that wild card game to the Bengals, but Lamar was hurt. They made the playoffs, but Lamar didn't get to play in that playoff game. They were the number 1 seed a few years back, and they lost to the Tennessee Titans. They really just let Derrick Henry run all over them. But this is a different number 1 seed. Lamar is much more mature, even though he did win the MVP that year. I think they're in a lot better shape this year. Plus, I think their weapons are going to help them with Flowers' speed and OBJ out there. I just think that that's really going to help them, especially with Flowers. He's going to be able to spread that field for them. Now, key injuries. We found out today that Mark Andrews has been ruled out. They are not going to activate him yet. Devin Duvernay may also be back. He probably will be a game-time decision. And then Marvin Humphrey has been ruled out. So those are the key injuries before tomorrow's game. Looking at their stats, we all know they love to run the football, and a lot of that is Lamar scrambling. But look at that defense, and we all know that the Ravens has always been a heavily minded defensive team, but now with Lamar it kind of changes everything. I think their keys will be to confuse Stroud. He is a rookie. They have the defense to do it, and allow Smith and Queen just to put a lot of pressure on Stroud. We have seen, too, that Stroud has not played well outside and in bad weather. I think it's going to be a little windy, not too bad, but it's going to be cold, so we'll have to see. I mean, he played at Ohio State, so maybe the cold won't affect him too much. But as I said before, spread the field with Flowers, run the ball as much as they do, and the one big key to me, my last point, is that OC Monken. He has made such a difference this year. I think he is so aggressive. He's very good at play calling throughout the game. He could be the key to get Lamar over that hump. On to the prediction. They played each other in the first game of the season this year where Baltimore won 25-9. Houston hung around for a good bit. Stroud threw for 242 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Lamar actually had one interception, but no touchdowns. Neither of them ran the ball really well, so it could be very similar. They might have to rely on the pass to move the ball. But I still think that they will come lower than that 9.5 points. So I have Baltimore winning 27-20. Now to the next game, which would have the 7th seed Green Bay Packers taking on the San Francisco 49ers. So we'll go over the Packers first. Again, they are the 7th seed. I'm sure nobody picked, well, I shouldn't say nobody picked Green Bay, but I don't think anybody thought that Green Bay would dominate the Cowboys like they did. I mean, it was gracious. I mean, 48-32. I mean, they were up by 32 points with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Dallas got a few touchdowns at the end to make the score look a little better, but Green Bay just dominated this game. Jones ran for 3 touchdowns. Love made some incredible throws, and everybody was saying, what are they doing getting rid of Aaron Rodgers? Well, this is the second time, and that's why I'm saying this. It's their second time for making the right decision. They're letting Rodgers go. Now it's Love's team. Before they let Favre go, and it became Rodgers' team. Rodgers went on to win a Super Bowl. So will Love go on to win a Super Bowl? We'll have to see. But he had an incredible game against the Cowboys, throwing for 272 yards and 3 touchdowns. But they do have one big injury to me, or possible. Jair Alexander played really well. He had that big interception. I think they'll really need him to play. Isaiah McDuffie is also questionable. A.J. Dillon is as well, but with Jones, God, he's running for, I think he's averaging 149 yards per game in the past 4 or 5 games. So, and they got Wilson as well. So, even if Dillon doesn't play, I don't think it's going to hurt them. If we look at their team stats, their offense is above average, 12, 15, 12. They pass the ball really well. They score a decent amount of points. And if you look at their defense, pass yards, points allowed isn't bad. But that one in the middle, 28th out of 32 in rush yards, allowing 128.3, and you're about to have Christian McCaffrey on the other side, that's going to be the danger for them. They're going to have to find a way to slow him down, because the 49ers are going to come out and just give the rock to CMC constantly. Here's the rock, go, go. So, and that's one of my keys to victory for them. They've got to slow down McCaffrey as much as possible. You're not going to stop him, but you just got to slow him down. I think they need to run a lot. They've been doing it. Jones is healthy. Keep San Francisco off the field, because it's just not McCaffrey. They got Ayuk. They've got Debo. They're a loaded offense. Kettle, too. I mean, you can't just slow down one. There's so many to worry about. They're going to have to produce some turnovers. I talk about turnovers a lot, but they're going to have to get some turnovers to have a shot at winning this game. Just like the Texans, they're 9.5 dogs. So you're going to have to get some turnovers to try to, or just flip the field any chance you get if you can't get the drives going. Pin them deep, and hopefully you can slow them down that way. But I think this is going to be a tough game for them. They've been playing well, but we're going to have to see how they come in and handle the 49ers. So let's get to the 49ers. Now to the 49ers. And I'm giggling a little bit because, hey, this is my YouTube channel, and I'm going to be petty. I'm not going to give them any background because I cannot stand the 49ers. It's my most hated team in the NFL. Growing up as a Falcons fan, they used to beat the living snot out of us in the 80s. Joe Montana, it'd be 49-10. I mean, we had the one Hail Mary with Billy Watts-Hugh Johnson that was the only win I can ever remember us beating the 49ers. And it was always 49ers during the 80s. So anyway, I'm going to be petty. They don't get any background. So they are, but this team is a little different. I am going to say that. They are the number 1 seed. They did get slaughtered by the Eagles in the NFC Championship last year. I honestly think, though, there is a lot of guys on this team that I do like. And McCaffrey, I think, should be the MVP. Incredible year. He had 2,023 yards of offense in the year 2023. Is that a sign? Well, we'll see. 21 touchdowns. They also got another young quarterback. Love's been playing well. We all know about Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. Well, he's not playing like one for sure. Everybody's always worried about getting a first-round quarterback, especially like a top 10 pick, including myself as a Falcons fan right now. I'm hoping that we take a quarterback in the top 10. Well, 49ers went out there and got a quarterback in the 7th round. I wish we had Kyle Shanahan back. That's the key. And also, Debo gets a lot of praise and a lot of media time because of how boastful he is. But Ayuk is the stud wide receiver. Over 100 receptions, over 1,000 yards. He is impressive. And then they still got George Kittle tied in. I mean, this team, the only way is just hoping Purdy's going to have that 4-interception game that he had earlier in the season. Their key injuries is Dre Greenlaw, their linebacker that plays really well. He is questionable. And then Cleveland Farrell, he's a defensive end. He played a little bit last week. He does have 3.5 sacks for the team this year, and he has been ruled out. Now going on to the 49er stats. Look at this offense. Matt Ryan, the first year of Kyle Shanahan, he always said this is going to be a special team next year, and he was right. He won an MVP that year, but we won't talk about the Super Bowl. Their defense is still just as stout. Look, I mean, third in rush yards, third in overall points, still in the top half of passing defense. This is a very good football team, and that's why they were the number 1 seed and picked as the NFC favorite to make it to the Super Bowl. So their keys of victory, like I said earlier about handing the rock over, just hand the ball over to CMC and see if Green Bay can stop him. If they don't, then you're going to run away with this game. Put some pressure on Love. Early in the season, the Falcons beat Green Bay, and they were able to keep the coverage down and put a little bit of pressure on him. And if they do load the box, good gracious, Purdy can just let it fly with all that talent that he has with the wide receivers and his tight end. And this is why I just think it's just going to be a very tough game for Green Bay to win. So this is the night game tomorrow night. It's on Fox, 8:15. Green Bay is 9.5 dogs, and I'm going to give it to San Francisco. I just don't think Green Bay has the defense to slow the 49ers down. So I have San Francisco winning 34-23. I'm being petty again. And hey, I'm just trying to have fun. This is my channel. I want it to be a little bit of fun too. So I'm putting it in green, hoping that Green Bay can pull some of that mojo that they did against the Cowboys and pull off an upset. But my gut and like all the research that you do with the teams, it's not looking good for Green Bay. And that's why I have San Francisco going on to win the game. Going to the Sunday game, the first game, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Detroit Lions, the brand new Lions. So let's go to the Buccaneers first. I'm being petty again because this is just fun. There's a lot of teams in the NFC I don't like because that's where my home team is from. Anyway, the 4-seed Buccaneers, who cares again? No, I'm just kidding. But they beat the lowly, pitiful Eagles. I don't like the Eagles either. They beat them 32-9. Baker is the first Buccaneer to throw for 300 yards in Tampa Bay history. That's kind of interesting because Brady never did that in the 2 years he was with them. That's kind of interesting. We know when they won their first Super Bowl, it was purely that defense. But anyway, does the Bucs stop here? Let's get a little cheesy here. Does the Bucs stop here? Maybe so. Their key injuries is Shaquille Barrett is questionable. Chase Edmonds, who everybody thought was going to be that good running back when he was playing for Arizona, he is questionable as well. He didn't run much last week. That could hurt the depth a little bit. But they're a pretty healthy team, like I said last week, going into the playoffs. Let's look at their team stats. Their offense is below average. Oh, man, look at that. Last in rush yards, 88.8 for the season. But this is the one time the stats are a little deceiving. They rushed for 119 yards against the Eagles, and that defense isn't that bad. This team has a lot of talent. They still got Mike Evans, even though he dropped a few balls last week. They have Chris Goodwin, who is a good wide receiver. And then the guys that scored the touchdowns last week, the speedsters Trey Palmer and then David Moore, they're tied in Otten. So they have plenty of weapons. And if Baker keeps playing the way he is, they can score some points. So Detroit's going to have to be careful because you're in a dome. They're going to be able to move that ball. So we'll have to see if Detroit's defense can slow them down. My keys for them to win is Baker to keep playing well and not make those bad throws that he can kind of be known for. He can be a gunslinger sometimes, so you have to watch how he does that. Like I said, they rushed for 119 last week. I think it's going to be another key for them this week. They're going to have to rush the ball well again. So Rachaad White's going to have to come out and have a similar game like he did against the Eagles. And like they did last week, I think that model of blitzing and putting all that pressure on Hurt, I think it could pay dividends for them against Detroit. If you get Goff on his heels, he has shown that he can get rattled a little bit. So that's the keys for me for the Buccaneers to win. Moving over to the Detroit Lions, the new Detroit Lions. They are the 3rd seed. They won their first playoff game since 1991. It was a great game. They won 24-23. It was a nail-biter. After that, they were showing fans crying in the stands. I get it because I have a lot of love for my Falcons, and they don't win often, so when they do, you really appreciate it. I want to stress that Dan Campbell has done such an incredible job. He is a great coach. I'm jealous of him as well, just like I am with DeMeco Ryans. Detroit had made a really good hire. When Hard Knocks had them 2 years ago, it's hard to not like this team, just like the Texans. I mean, this team has struggled for so long. They've never even been to a Super Bowl. At least our Falcons have been to one. They've never even been to one. So I'm really pulling for this team just because even though they're not an underdog for this game, they're still an underdog team in general. Laporta is still kind of hurt. He played last week. I still think it will be important for him to play. And honestly, they don't have any major injuries. So just like the Bucs, they're coming in fairly healthy for a playoff team. Their team stats, look at this offense. Man, top 5 overall. Numbers 2 in passing with 258 yards, 5th in rushing, 5th in points scored. It's because they've put a lot of talent around Goff with Amon St. Brown. They got the 2 good running backs. The one kid, Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm going to mention because he's from Dalton High School, and that's right next to the hospital that I work for. So it's fun to have a local kid in a big playoff game. Now, their defense is their Achilles heel, so to speak. Hey, they played well against the Rams last week. So, again, just like how you're looking at the Buccaneers' offensive stats that are kind of misleading, this is too. They find a way to make stops when they need to. I don't have a lot of keys for them to win because it's really going to be how well Baker plays to me, because I think that the Lions are going to be able to move the ball. The Bucs can be thrown on, so maybe their OC, Ben Johnson, will throw some more. It just depends. Maybe he'll get a feel from the game because they can run the ball pretty easily. The big thing is just Goff, don't turn it over because I think you're going to be able to score points. This might just come down to just outscoring the Buccaneers because I think with the Buccaneers offense, they are going to be able to score some points. On to the prediction. I think Detroit has a really good shot. They're 6.5-point favorites, but I'm going to actually have them winning 30-24. They won't hit the bet, but they will win by 6 because I think the Buccaneers offense will keep it close. And this is the one game that could be a coin flip like the night game on Sunday as well. I'm hoping this will be a good game, but I think that Detroit will pull through and move on to the conference championship. On to the last game, the Sunday night game with the Chiefs and the Bills, which has already had some classics in the playoff games already in the past few years. So we're going to look at the Kansas City Chiefs first. They're the 3 seed. They survived that really cold game against Miami, winning pretty handily, 26-7. Miami had a chance to kind of stay in the game, but the offense was stagnant. They couldn't move the ball, and then they stopped running the ball. I don't know what McDaniel was doing. Anyway, Kansas City, they're going to play in another cold game up in Buffalo, and everybody right now is making a big deal about Mahomes' oh, he's going to go play in his first away game away from Kansas City. Are you kidding me? This is Patrick Mahomes. He is going to ball anywhere he goes. It doesn't matter what field and where. The guy is. That's why he's won so many MVPs and 2 championships already. Anyway, sometimes the media will get stuck on some of that stuff and I don't like it. Anyways, their key injuries is similar to the Lions. No major injuries, but they have lost a lot of depth throughout the season. So that will be the thing. If this cold weather maybe just dings up a few, they could have some depth issue, but all their key players are ready to go. Looking at their team stats, they're a little above average on offense. We know what they have in Mahomes with those passing yards, 246.8. Their rushing is down a little bit because Pacheco's been hurt a lot. I don't think Edwards-Helaire is completely healthy again, and that's why their point scored is kind of down. But they've relied heavily on this defense. The defense has been the strong point. In the past, it's like, hey, just let Mahomes score a lot. But this defense has been key this year. To win this game, I think that they're going to have to run with Pacheco. They're also going to have to find a way to smother Diggs and those 2 tight ends with Kincaid and Knox. So they're going to have to see if they can force Buffalo to run. But when I say force them to run, you have to be careful there, because if you do that, you're going to have to put a spy on Allen, because he will start running if you start concentrating too much on those wide receivers and tight ends. And honestly, we know the biggest key, Mahomes. If Mahomes plays well, they're going to have a shot. On to Buffalo. They are the 2 seed. They had no issues with Pittsburgh last week with that 31-17 win. They had 179 yards rushing last week. I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that against the Kansas City defense. So is this their year? Is this the time they're finally going to get to a conference championship? Allen he's always had the roadblock with Mahomes. So is this the time that he's finally going to get over that hump and beat them? Now, the one thing is their game got moved around because of the weather last week. So KC's had a few more days to rest. I'd like to see if that helps KC a little more coming into this game. Some of their key injuries is 2 of their cornerbacks, Douglas and Johnson, are questionable. And then Bernard, their linebacker, is questionable. Gabe Davis, he was out last week. He's going to be out again this week. But let's go ahead and look. Let's take a look at their team stats. That offense, we know it's loaded with Allen, Diggs, the 2 tight ends I mentioned. They have James Cook as a running back. The big thing this year was they fired Ken Dorsey, their OC. They brought in Brady. And honestly, since Brady's came in, they've played really, really well. Don't underestimate that defense either. I mean, they're still a highly ranked defense as well. My keys for Buffalo is show balance on offense. I'm not sure you're going to be able to run as heavily as you did against Pittsburgh on this Kansas City defense. Can they get to Mahomes? Can they get enough pressure on Mahomes because he doesn't have the weapons like he used to, and maybe force him to make some errant throws? And honestly, and this is why I'm hoping this game is going to be amazing, do they get the ball last? I mean, the last game, that's what happened. If they get the ball last, they might have a chance to win, and this will be on Allen and his chance to get over that hump. For the prediction of this game, it's going to be close. I think the point spread right now is 2.5. I'm going to actually have Buffalo winning 28-26 in a close game. Like I said, it might be who gets the ball last. I think both Sunday games could be a flip of a coin. Who gets the ball last, who makes the least mistakes. I'm hoping this to be a good game. I know I'm going with all the favorites, but it's hard to pick an upset this week. I think there will be an upset because any given Sunday, any team can win. I mean, it was proven last week with the Packers and the Buccaneers. I mean, any team and the Texans, any team can win. So let's just hope that it's good football this weekend. As always, thank you for listening to Spider Red. And I honestly don't care if you hit subscribe and like. I'm having a blast. Tell somebody you love them today. Later.